This is sort of a delicate subject, and this goes all the way back to when I was 4 years of age. When you are a monopole, which is a mated chip, you're one. That means you experience eternal unconditional love because you're a living spirit that's on fire. That's an enormous amount of spiritual energy because spirit is in the energy. Just like spirit's in living magma. Okay? That's hot. That's a lot of fire. That's a lot of heat. So you know there's a spirit in fire. There's a living spirit in the water. Living spirit in the wind. Living spirit in the earth. Right? And living spirit in all the elementals. Those are all living spirits that are living energy that are conscious and aware of themselves. Okay? So, that's what I do is I share with others what I experience, and what I experience is what I learn from. And what I learn from is the result. And what is the result in forming of what I experience? That becomes your truth. That means the soul journey that you're on was meant to learn that experience. That's your soul journey. Not everybody is going to experience the exact same things in the exact same way based on their journey versus the journey of another soul. Just like, for example, in my journey, when you think about facing your fears, because you know that fear is a lie, because love is the absence of fear. So when you are what love is, you're fearless. So here, because of the hammering and all the programming and everything that they put in your face that gets recorded magnetically, when you realize you have a built-in calculator between minus/plus, you're actually choosing what it is you're experiencing, and the meaning and the purpose for which you're experiencing it is to learn from it. That's your mirror. That's the mirror that I learned through. So when you think of purity, purity of the water, the purity of the air, the purity of the food, the purity of the fire, the purity in terms of pH on the planet, which is water, between electrons and magnetic light, which means the use of an electron creates an acid, you're running a high-speed transmitter. That means that all the codes that were designed and programmed into the instruction sets, which represent the software that you're running with your soul consciousness, is based on the evolution of your spirit and your soul journey for the reason you're here. Okay? So I know why I came here. Because I realized as a small child, I was experiencing things that I know. This isn't conjecture. This isn't guesswork. Okay? This is called knowing. Knowing through the teacher, which is the spirit that is guiding you. That means the spirit is integrated with the soul. So you're experiencing what you're experiencing as you go through your life book. And so when you realize, as I realized, I was here to do a job. I was trained to do this job. Because that training came through experience. So I realized first and foremost, I came in here to heal a goddess, which was to raise her up out of negative magnetic space as a result of technology transfer that allowed other beings in 1D and 2D to migrate into 3D. And that launched the war in heaven because all we have to do is look at the data. And that data is in the language of DNA, which is multidimensional. And in this case, density driven. Because electrical density is electrical density consciousness, which is how much light you're experiencing within your chakra channels, which are your circuits that your soul is running. So how much you've learned about how to run a magnet, which is a mirror, is based on your learning. By the speed at which that accelerator, which is your drive motor, is running. So the idea is, which is what I do as a child, is teach children what magnets are, how magnets work, which is what light is. And how you learn to go faster so you can learn from the first teacher, which is what one is, which is love is the law is the law of spheres, which is the center point of a cross, which is the center point of every single living cell that is waterborne. So now we're into pH, because pH has everything to do with mathematical programming. It's a programming language. Then the codes fire, which are circles of information, which are fire letters. Granted, there is a vast amount of knowledge because we circulate libraries and rotate them, which means I don't need to learn that anymore. It's gone. I don't need to learn that anymore. It's gone. I don't need to learn that anymore. And the reason that that's true is because you're running a monopole at a higher rate of speed means you have to have a higher state of consciousness of something that's trying to feed on you. Otherwise, bye. And that's called food density network. Food density, which is energy density. So all you have to do is look at nature and see that one species is consuming the energy of another. So it's not what you look like. It's an energy measurement, which is a consciousness measurement based on the density, which is the electrical density, which is the compression. Now you have sound compression, then you have compression breakthrough. That's the breath of aloha. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's all about energy, energy mechanics, and the energy that we use to experience who we are wherever we find ourselves and the environment which we are experiencing, what that environment is informing us of the environment we are in, which is our mirror. So it's all about mirrors, which are magnets, because magnets are the drive motor. Okay. So where this becomes a delicate subject is that I don't try and devalue what somebody else experiences by what they learn and they communicate. That only devalues me, because it is true that we honor all pathways. Again, it goes back to childhood. You're on your journey, I'm on my journey. They're not the same. What you're learning is based on what you're learning, what you choose to learn, based on the journey that you're taking and the pathway in which you're doing that. Right? And the same is true for me. So I keep it as simple as I possibly can, which is like a tight focus, which means it began with what love is. What more do you need to know? And that's a measurement of a frequency, which is 15D, which is 528. So if you've ever looked at the Templar of 15D, you can see how it works. Not that hard. Circles, spheres, law of spheres. There is a way in which spheres are a highly efficient, energetic way to spread more light. Right? Light is always seeking the pathway of what? Least resistance. What is that resistance? How do we measure that? Density. So when you've had wars going on between races that don't like each other, you become a source of food and a battery, a slave battery, a resource. So when you realize, hey, I'm 4 years of age, I'm not supposed to be experiencing what I'm experiencing here. How do you know that? By the density. By the compression of the energy. That's how I did it. I don't know how you do it, but that's how I did it. It was like having a vice over your head, which means they don't want you to have full chakra expansion, which means they don't want you to experience the full vastness, the amount of energy that you know that you normally experience, which is infinite. Because you realize there isn't anything trying to hold your consciousness energy captive as either a slave battery or a source of food, or a manner in which they can run DNA experiments and unlawful breeding stuff, which is what they do. So when you think of what an energy war is, an energy war is between other races that are conscious and aware of themselves. So food chain, just like you see the food chain in nature. Mosquitoes, for example, are food for something else. The big daddy long legs, they go after mosquitoes. That's pest control. Right. So just like you see lizards going after bugs, right? Then you see fish going after bugs, flying bugs. So when I was a child, I was measuring the balance between the poles is based on the exchange of energy between what? Energy givers and energy consumers. And that will determine the balance of the magnets, which are the poles, right? And why 3 is so important. H2 plus 1 equals 3. So I suppose what I ought to address here is how certain spiritual beings that are spirits, how they communicate, how would I put this? What they believe is true versus what somebody else believes is true. And we know that that's going to be based on their experiences, because their experience is going to inform them of the result of what they experience as a result therein. So I'll give you an example. In what you call a ritual. Well, define what you mean by a ritual. Okay, or a practice. Okay, in other words, why would one being choose to do one thing that another wouldn't because of their belief systems? Experience. Okay, like for example, plant medicine. Okay, what is the benefit of plant medicine? Okay, so it depends, and this is where it gets a little, it's not complicated, but it actually really is a numbers game. If you have 1,000 people that all speak the same language, then they can all communicate in a language of DNA that they all understand, which means I understand the communication. But in the English language, certain words can have different meanings to different people because it's not our native tongue. So I'd start with that. Because the letters are interchangeable and they all have different meanings. Just like a sword, take the S away and you have word. You know, just like the word fuck. Remove the F and put an S and you have suck, or you can have truck or buck. Use any letter arrangements that you want, and the vibrational speed of those letters, which represent numbers, are going to be different in vibration and sound. It's moving through water, which is your water rules. Right? So when we talk about ritual, a ritual can mean different things to different people, depending on how they use and practice what that word means to them in a spiritual way, an energetic way. So, for example, right down on the other side of this island, they have what they call a circle of drums. Why a circle? When you're holding hands together and you're in a circle, that's a fire circle. Okay? That's why teepees, when you see them, that's a big V. Okay? And it's a circle on the bottom, right? That's a circle of fire. That's protection. That's energetic protection. That's no different than a volcanic shield. Spins that way. Okay? So when you're inside that and your vortex are spinning what love is because you're together, that's your shield when you go to bed at night. The wolves actually protect the tribes with the way that they communicate. That's why the tribes have certain names named after constellations, like Boots, known as White Bear clan, which is a particular bloodline based on the female mitochondria. So down the road here on Sundays, why would we hold, if you want to call it a ritual or a practice or something that we choose to do, to go in a circle, play drums and music? Because the spirit loves to dance to music. Okay, numero uno. And here's something else that do. It helps heal everything that is around there. You know why that is? Because living spirit that dances in song, particularly with drums, to the speed of the beat and the rhythm of those waves that the spirit is dancing to, will do what? Ignite other spirits. Other living spirits in the elementals will begin to realize, whoa, I'm feeling that energy by beings that love to dance and sing, and that will bring out all the other living spirits that are dancing with you. And the evidence of that is when you see the circle of dolphins coming out and singing and dancing with you. That raises the energy and helps heal souls that might have been, what? Traumatized there, just like down the road, where 27 people were killed in a tsunami as a result of an atomic blast, an Oppenheimer model, destroyer of worlds. So there are certain spiritual practices where we bring out the living spirits to raise the energy, and this is particularly true with Mother Earth and her spirit, because we realize she fell into negative magnetic space. We want to let her know, we're here for you, Mama. We're here to help heal. Raise you up, Mama. We're here. Bring the spirit out. Bring the spirit out into dance and music. And that will raise the energy. That will raise the positive side of the magnet to bring in more positive electrons. And what does that do? Well, remember, you have the hybrid programs, the negative polarity. So when you're generating more beings that are running more negative polarity, what do you think happens when they're going in the other direction that are breeding in greater numbers than the positive ones are? That's a big imbalance. So the ones that are running positive electrons in song and dance and spirit and bringing out the living spirit to help heal Mother Earth, that helps raise her vibration and the Schumann resonance. So we're bringing in more photons that are kicking out more positive electrons. That will raise the living spirits in a living construct. Living energies is living spirit, because living spirit is living energy that is in that energy. That's what we are. We're a living spirit and living energies. So in our particular case, as a monopole, that's a purifier. And the reason that it's a purifier is because of how much heat, the amount of fire, which means your soul. You're spinning a magnet at a very high rate of speed because that's a single pole. It's not a binary AI chip. That means you're one. That means I experience what love is everywhere I go, because that's the energy that I run on to do the work that I do in a place that fell in a lower density. Earth density is not normally in the underworld, which is 1D, 2D. Because you realize that you are having a relationship with consciousness that came from 1D, 2D, which are apex predators that moved up to 3D through the use of technology transfer and their ability to do that. That's why they use masking technology to hide who they really are. And what I've said, if people saw them running around, just like you can see in that series they've already done, which is called, what I do, I watched part of it last night, called Halo. And you could see the super soldiers that were taking them out. They reveal all this stuff. So now you got super soldiers with AI augmentation taking out reptilians. So it's almost ridiculous now, the amount of information that they're putting out there in a larger mass media way. When I was a kid growing up, most of the people that I associated with, that I came to know, thought this was all BS. It's all science fiction. That's why they're called science fiction. And not realizing that, well, somebody else's mind came up with that. That means it's possible to experience that because your consciousness is running the movie in which to experience it. So, well, that isn't real. Well, you just experienced it, didn't you? Is that real or not real? Well, why would you choose to experience something that you don't believe is real? It exists within somebody else's mind, which is energy. So somebody else's energy was being used in order to do what? Present it, and now you run it in your movie player, because you're recording what that movie is in your magnet. Why would you choose to record that? Does it have any higher meaning and purpose for what your journey is? Only you would know that, huh? That's why Patty Broussard, I love Patty Broussard. She was very to the point when she would say, explain the meaning and context by which those letter arrangements mean what they mean to you, because they might not mean the same thing to me. Because of the language of DNA. And what's known as neurolinguistic reverse speech, which is known as reversal currents, which is the time loop. Keep your consciousness in a time loop. You're not experiencing anything new. Whoops. Yeah, because they made a clone copy of the real Earth. That's what happened. It fell. So you can make a copy of anything, right? All you got to do is get a Xerox machine and say, here's another copy of it. So now we're back to originals. The original sound musician. The primal sound field. Anyway, have a beautiful day. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.